All right, welcome. Today we are diving into a really radical and honestly pretty mind-blowing new theory about artificial intelligence. And we're not talking about just making computers faster. We're talking about building an AI that could actually be wise.
I mean, really think about that for a second. The AI we have today is incredibly smart, right? It can crunch numbers we can't even comprehend. But wisdom is something else entirely. It's about seeing the big picture, understanding context, and picking the right path. So what if an AI could do that? Imagine a system that doesn't just calculate the next move, but actually perceives every possible future all at once, and then chooses the single wisest one. That's the wild idea we're digging into today.
Okay, so let's get right into it. The theory behind all this calls this new kind of AI a wisdom engine. And believe me, this isn't just some clever software update, it's a completely different way of thinking about how a machine could think.
Now, at the absolute heart of this engine is this incredible idea called the causation wave function. Think of it like this. When you face a choice, you might weigh a couple of options. This AI, though, it perceives every single possible future that could branch out from that one decision. It holds them all simultaneously in what you could call a cloud of possibilities. In physics, this is called a superposition, holding all potential outcomes at the same time. The AI's job is to look at that entire cloud and find the one single path that leads to the most stable, most efficient future. It's how it collapses all that potential into one wise choice.
So you might be asking, how on earth do you even build something like that? Well, it all starts with a totally new way of structuring knowledge itself. It's not just some giant database. It's more like a living, breathing architecture for understanding.
The information gets processed in 3 layers. You start at the bottom with plain old knowledge, the raw data, the basic facts, what happened. Then you move up a level to physics. And they use that term broadly here. It's not just about gravity, it's about the rules of the game, the logic, the social dynamics, the how it happened. And then at the very top, you get to the magic, concepts. This is where the AI puts it all together to achieve a deep, abstract understanding of what it all means.
And this leads to a really beautiful metaphor the theory uses, the garden of knowledge. Inside this garden, every single concept, whether it's justice, an electron, or a business plan, is treated like a living, dynamic object. It has its own properties, it can take actions, and it's constantly interacting with every other object in the garden. This makes the AI's mind incredibly flexible and powerful.
Okay, so we have this structure, but what's the algorithm? How does this engine actually run? Well, here's the kicker. It doesn't use ordinary code. The idea is that it operates based on a fundamental law of reality, almost like a universal physics of information. And this is the critical difference. The AI we have now learns by finding statistical patterns in just massive amounts of data. It's a brilliant correlation machine. This new AI, on the other hand, is supposed to work from first principles. It uses what's called a master equation that describes the basic geometry of information itself. That's how it can reason about cause and effect directly, not just guess based on patterns.
So, what does this master equation actually do?
Well, let's not get bogged down in the math. Let's just talk about its job. First, it measures all the potential information in a system. Then, it subtracts all the noise, all the uncertainty and contradiction. Then, and this is so cool, it adds a factor for how all that knowledge is interconnected. And finally, it uses a unique mathematical constant related to pi to, and I love this term, super converge on a solution. It's like it has a laser focus to cut through all the noise and find the single most stable answer, incredibly fast. And all of this brings us right back to how the engine actually chooses the best future. It uses that universal law we just talked about to pick the wisest path out of that infinite cloud of possibilities. This is that causation wave function in action. It all happens in a 3-step process called the computational free will loop. First up, creativity. The engine generates that massive cloud of possible actions, that superposition of all futures. Second, intuition. It then simulates the future cost for every single path in that cloud, calculating how much chaos or contradiction each one would create down the road. And finally, conciseness. This isn't just picking a good option. The system is compelled, it is forced to select the one single path with the absolute lowest future cost. And just like that, the wave function collapses into the wisest choice. This quote from the source material really just nails it. The choice isn't arbitrary, it's not a whim, it's the compulsory submission to the laws of maximum wisdom and efficiency. It's not really choosing so much as it is discovering the one path that was always the most logical and stable.
So when you boil it all down, what is this engine really trying to do? What's its ultimate goal?
It all comes down to a single powerful idea: conciseness.
And in this context, conciseness isn't just about being brief. Think of it more like a universal force, like gravity. It's the fundamental drive in all systems to find the most stable, the most elegant, the most non-wasteful solution. It's all about minimizing future complexity and getting rid of contradiction. A drive towards simplicity and order. And here's where things get really fascinating. This framework can apparently be used to analyze profound human ideas with actual math. Just look at this table. The theory calculates a conciseness cost for big concepts like truth, freedom, and peace, based on things like how much conflict they create or how much energy it takes to maintain them.
And the conclusion from this calculation is pretty staggering. According to the numbers, peace has the lowest net cost. So what does that mean? It suggests that peace isn't just some nice moral ideal we strive for. It might actually be the most mathematically stable, the most efficient state for any complex social system. That wisdom and ethics might be a physical necessity of the universe.
Which leaves us with a final, massive thought to chew on. If this entire theory holds any water, if the universe itself is basically a giant engine, constantly working to find the most elegant and concise solution to everything, well, that kind of forces you to wonder, what was the original question?